Hi, welcome to Yo Soy, Neighborhoods, Fresno. Thank you for watching. Today we wanted to share with you a couple of announcements. First of all, yesterday's State of the Children's Address was wonderful. 750 people attended. We want to keep that going in our community.
Yes.
Influencing our children to do better and study and become entrepreneurs and be confident. I have a couple announcements. Janet Sumner has a Teen Summit on 9/15, Choices and Consequences, and we have the Down Syndrome Association charity on 9/14. And I think Doc has one.
Oh, yes, the book sale, $5 book bags from 9 to 5 p.m. Friday, August 30th and 31st. Wait, what's today's date?
Oh my
That's
goodness.
today and tomorrow. And then we also go September 1st for DVDs, books, videos, cassettes, and more for all your local needs across the board.
Well, today we have Kendall. Can you say your last name for me?
Kendall Simsarian.
Okay. Kendall has been in Fresno area for about how long now?
30 years.
30 years.
Yes.
This is not your hometown then?
No, I grew up in San Francisco.
Oh, okay. Wonderful. Wonderful.
I'm Bay Area. I knew I'd get along with you.
Wonderful. And now you're with the law firm. Can you mention that? Or?
Yeah, I have my own office, so I'm Kendall Simsarian, attorney at law.
Okay. And your specialty here is criminal law?
Criminal defense, correct.
Okay. So why don't we talk a little bit about criminal defense? That encompasses.
Sure, yeah, I defend people who are accused of crimes, and all the way from generally arraignment, or even sometimes after someone is arrested, they'll call me. They might call me from the scene, they might call me from jail, or just before an arraignment, and all the way through to either a settlement or what or, in unusual cases, sentencing.
Okay, so let me ask you a question real quick. What are the most types of criminal defense that you're doing now? Felony, misdemeanor, are they gun?
Yeah, I would say I do felonies, misdemeanors, very few infractions. I don't do much in the way of traffic tickets. Of the type of the felonies and misdemeanors, I would say I do more DUIs than any other specific type of law. So I do a lot of felonies, but generally DUIs are misdemeanors, and I handle a lot of those cases.
Okay, so we were talking earlier about DUIs and how things have changed. They used to allow you urine tests, now they go for blood tests. So what's the difference?
Well, there was a provision that allowed you to choose between blood, urine, and breath when a police officer stopped you for under suspicion of DUI. They removed the urine test as a choice, and so now they have to read you an admonition. If they have probable cause to believe that you're under the influence, they have to read you an admonition that says that you have a choice of whether to take breath or blood.
Okay, exactly what does that mean? You're having to sign a document to waive your right?
No, they don't have you sign it. They just they read you that admonition, and then you have to choose at that point whether you'd like to take the breath or the blood test. That assumes that they have probable cause to believe that you're under the influence. In most cases, they should have arrested you by that point.
Yeah, so technically you wouldn't. Technically, you could actually refuse till you get to the station and talk to your attorney before you say anything to them, right?
You can refuse to take a test, but you're going to automatically get a 1-year suspension. And you don't have a right to speak with an attorney prior to choosing whether you take blood or breath.
But can't I plead the fifth? I don't have to do it either way because I don't agree with their suspicions. And remember, it's a suspicion and probable cause. Probable cause has been thrown out the door many of times.
You can plead the fifth, but you're still going to lose your license administratively, and that's a problem with DMV that you're going to face.
Okay.
So are they Mirandizing you?
You know what? Honestly, they don't Mirandize people. A lot of times there's a misconception that you haven't been arrested until you've been Mirandized, but that's not true. All Miranda does is allow the officer to use your statement that's been given in court after the proper warnings. You have to be in custody for it to apply, and there has to be questioning for it to apply. I can tell you that in most DUIs, they ask you a lot of questions before you're Mirandized, meaning given those rights. So what they'll do is they'll ask you questions like, have you been drinking? Where are you coming from? Where are you going? You can choose not to answer those questions.
Because
really?
they can't use it against you because they haven't read your Miranda rights yet. So whatever you say can be and will be held in court
It
of law.
can be used against you.
That's why I just rather plead the fifth, take the 1 year. But now if I take the 1 year and deny it, can I go apply and appeal that decision that they gave me the 1 year suspension because there was nothing in my blood to begin with once they did their testing?
In a sense, you can appeal. And the way to appeal that is by, at the time, what happens is they suspend your license immediately. It's administratively done. They call it stop and snatch.
Okay.
Because
Fair enough.
they're stopping you and they're literally taking your physical license from you, and then they hand you a pink piece of paper. It's a DS-367 form, it's a DMV form, and they hand you that and they tell you, okay, your license is suspended. So what you have to do is within 10 days, you have to notify the DMV that you want to appeal, in a sense, appeal that decision. And so what you get is a hearing on the matter, and then generally it's the attorneys that set that, because people get that pink piece of paper, it's all outlined on there, but a lot of times people in that situation don't read everything they're given. The writing is very small and it's hard to understand sometimes for a layperson. So that's a good tip that I can give you now and your viewers, that
Yes,
once you
thank
get once you get that pink piece of paper that you're arrested on suspicion of DUI, that you should contact DMV, at least contact an attorney within 10 days, because if you don't, and you don't contact DMV within those 10 days, you lose your right to appeal that, which you might have a very valid basis
That's
for doing.
only if you're not guilty of anything, right?
Well,
Or does it
nobody's
matter?
guilty until they either plead guilty or they're found guilty at a jury trial.
But what he's saying is, as they swipe your license, right? So say I plead the fifth. Go ahead, suspend my license, take my license, give me my pink form. I have 10 days.
Right.
Now, are you going to take me to the station or not? Now, if you are going to take me to the station and you want me to do a P test and all that, you have to arrest me first. And if you only have a suspicion and I'm refusing or I'm pleading my fifth, they're going to bring my Miranda rights. I go in the car, I go down to the station, they do what they do. I still have my pink slip. I still have to go within 10 days. I still have to do my appeal. But then once that blood test comes up and they find nothing in my blood, but a lot of the times we're talking about like major situations. People are wrecking stuff, swerving, and that's why they're stopping you. I mean, it's like guaranteed DUI.
Yeah, but also, don't they make you walk the line before they
That doesn't
do
mean
all
nothing.
You
that?
might do that. You said a lot there.
I did.
and I don't
Let's see,
necessarily recommend that entire procedure that you just outlined.
Let me
Okay?
get-
outlaw. We all know
I'm
this.
not saying that you should do that. But you bring up something that's separate: field sobriety tests. Field sobriety tests are voluntary, but there's what
Really?
I consider
Oh, yeah.
what I consider a very unfair provision that allows the prosecutor to bring up the fact that you refuse to do field sobriety tests at trial and to make it appear that you must be guilty.
Right.
To me, I agree with you that you shouldn't have to give up your Fifth Amendment rights. I think that doing those type of tests should be fully voluntary, and that because in my mind they're very subjective. When you talk about walking and turning and following what can be over 100 different instructions in a sense, then how are you expected to be able to, how is a police officer supposed to be expected to be able to determine by that whether you're under
Right.
the influence? How is even a jury supposed to be able to do that? It's very unfair. Most people can't do those tests stone sober.
Right,
So
right,
how
because
can they
we're not
expect-
balancing.
And then here's what happens is that a police officer comes in at your jury trial and says, well, this person did the walk and turn test and he didn't follow instructions. That's the most common. You'd be surprised. The most common failure that people have is failure to follow the instructions properly, and they will use that against you as failing to do the test, even if your balance is perfect. So they use those failure to follow instructions, and they'll tell the jury, well, most people in my training and experience can follow the instructions, do the test properly, and I won't find that they are under the influence.
See, this is when I go to my attorney and I go to Google and I find the officers that I'm infractioned with, and you can actually find the history online and also their success rate of their arrests and how many arrests they have and how many cases actually fail when they actually give out tickets.
They actually
they
all
have
the
to. By law, they have
information?
to show. You can get the information online.
Really?
It's accessible, yes.
All right.
They have to show because every officer has an arrest rate. Every officer has, so when they want to become a DA and stuff like that and you move up the chain, they have a record showing like, oh, okay, my arrest rate is successful of 68% with nobody coming back or no false information given, or you know what I mean, of just success rate.
Do you know about
I
that?
haven't ever
Convicting.
seen that, so you'll have to tell me about that.
Oh wait, I'm giving out
The
too much
website
information
after-
right now.
No, that's great.
After the show.
That's really.
I actually somewhat doubt that that's as easily
Where is it?
explained, but
Where is it? On
You should see. They give out information all the time. Public record, Dreyer, he has his arrest rate out there too.
Okay.
you should look it
is
up.
it PD.org?
We'll talk about that after the show.
Well,
I'll show you some websites.
Well, we would, so people can understand.
things.
You may as well. I mean, this is.
Well, if they're asleep, honey, they're
transparent.
asleep. You can't wake up a sheep.
I'm not a sheep, and I know
You're
that I haven't seen
Look, he's
that
turning
ever.
red. Look, he's
So,
awake. Look, he's
I'm
paying
pretty
attention
sure. I mean, it would be very interesting to find that, but I'm not sure of any.
It's just like a
website that's
judge. A
available.
judge will also have
Maybe
a
it's on the
success rate
dark
too. Will have success rate of how many they trial and not, because attorneys bring it up all the time, especially if they don't like the judge.
Oh,
and they
that's
don't think
interesting that they're putting all that out there.
They're being equated, like they're not being fairly trialed. Like say I don't like the judge and I feel like they're being racist. Well, let's look at all their cases and see how many successful cases are including my nationality or my kind of case. See what their success rate is. Attorneys go after judges all the time for that. It's there.
Oh no!
You can
I
find
know
it,
they
trust
do,
me.
but I didn't know that they were actually putting it online.
I'll show you some stuff, some
Uh-huh.
websites.
Right, because that's interesting. If you can find that information, I mean, if they're
I'd be interested.
Yeah.
Especially when you reach sergeant, you reach up in the police chief. Like you have. I bet you have a success rate with your office. Like how many you can actually win, how many DUIs you've won.
well, they have AVO.
You have
they
that,
have
right?
AVO, that service, and that gives you a running.
No, that doesn't.
It doesn't either.
No, that would just give people's comments
That's
on
it.
an attorney.
Oh.
It wouldn't tell how many jury trials they've had or how many cases they've handled. In criminal defense, we really, rather than look at the criminal trial success rate, it's more important to look at the rate of cases that come in that you're able to handle that benefit the client. Because once you go to trial on a case, that's a whole different thing. You would prefer, most clients would prefer to have a case dismissed prior to trial. So
Well, we all would.
right, the trial success rate wouldn't reflect that. So you'd prefer to know how the attorney is doing on a case once it comes into the office, how they're doing and what resolution they're getting to benefit the client.
Exactly. Yeah, that would be important because I want them to make it go away.
Oh, girl, you just have to have a couple lunch parties. It'll go away.
A lunch party. That was in the old days, I thought.
Oh, that's old money. I forgot. We're new money now.
Rubbing shoulders.
Yep, rubbing elbows. The good old days.
Oh dear. Well, I know that that's an important issue here. We've had a lot of DUIs. We're having a lot of car crashes, like these people running red lights and whatnot. Those are actually felonies, criminal defense too, aren't they?
A felony is generally, on a DUI, is generally when someone is injured during a DUI. There's a person who has a DUI with 3 priors within 10 years, that'll be considered a felony, and a person that injures somebody other than themselves that'll be considered a felony as well. The injury doesn't even have to be much.
Oh, really?
Just some injury to somebody. It's not the same standard as, say, great bodily injury that's sometimes pled in cases. Just some injury is enough to trigger that felony case.
Okay, but some of these folks are killing other people.
And that's generally it's going to be a felony without question if there's a DUI and a death involved. What you're finding is sometimes murder is charged. The most likely reason that a murder charge is going to occur out of a DUI is because someone's had what's called a Watson advisement read to them. That's an advisement that they read in every DUI case when someone pleads guilty to DUI. they're going to be read the advisement that drinking alcohol and doing drugs prior to driving is dangerous and can result in death. And you're hereby advised that you could be charged with murder if you continue to drink and or do drugs and drive.
Okay, so now we've gone from just a DUI felony to a murder, so how many more years are we looking at?
Oh,
if
honey, you're looking at
convicted?
25 to life once you go for a murder.
Yeah, a murder
Sorry, with the
conviction is
DUI?
going to be certainly more serious than a straight DUI, without
It is.
question. It's not going to be the 25 to life is going to be a premeditated murder. The 15 to life is generally for second-degree murder. It would be a second-degree murder rather than first-degree. But there can be enhancements. There can be enhancements. There can be priors. If someone has done it in the past, there can be priors that affect that. If they have a serious felony in their past, it could be doubled.
Don't drink and drive, okay? That's just the main point.
Well,
That's good advice.
Well,
Good
really,
word.
it has to do, now we have marijuana, we have
Yeah,
all
but they're
these
coming
other-
out with, it's just like drinking. You shouldn't drink 2 to 3 hours before you get behind the wheel. So you can technically have 1 8-ounce glass of beer, 1 mixed drink that's hard liquor, a brandy or of your choice, within 3 hours of driving, 3 to 4 hours of driving, as long as it's below 0.01. As long as it's
0.08 is
or
the
0.08
standard.
now. Sorry, they're getting low on us.
Well, the standard, I would say 25 years ago, I think they changed it. It might have been more than
It was
that.
like
but
0.6, I thought, when I was growing up, like
It was a point.
0.06.
It was a 0.10 when they first enacted the number. That didn't used to be a number back. If you go back
Right.
50, 70 years, then there wasn't a number. It just was illegal to drive under the influence. Because it was difficult to tell whether somebody was under the influence and hard to make those convictions after the fact, obviously, they decided to make a per se number, that if you're 0.15 or over, then you're per se under the influence, whether you're under the whether they can prove that you were or not. Then they lowered that to 0.10. This has all happened before I started practicing law. But then while I was practicing, like I said, about 25 years ago, then they did the reduced to 0.08. They're considering even making it lower to say even a 0.05. And so they're considering that. But
not gonna change anything.
when you're charged with DUI, you're invariably charged with not just being under the influence, but also being 0.08 or above. So they can prove either one of those things. If you're 0.04 or below, you are conclusively presumed, or you are presumed not to be guilty of being under the influence. If you're 0.08 or above, you're presumed to be under the influence.
0.08.
And let me tell you, you can get drunk the night before. This is no joke. Happened to my friend. They get drunk the night before, and then they got stopped for a ticket, and it was like at 10 a.m. in the morning because they drank so much the night before. They're actually, when they blew on the breathalyzer, they were considered intoxicated.
Yeah, you know, if you do the calculations, it's about a 0.015 rate of reducing the alcohol, the amount of alcohol. So if someone drinks enough to be, say, a 0.25, I'm not going to do the numbers quite right now.
Right,
but
it's okay, yeah.
Even
We'll adjust.
10 hours later, that's going to be a 0.15 reduction. So I can do the math, as a matter of fact.
Yeah,
the 0.15
you're on point
reduction,
today.
10 hours after your 0.25, you're still 0.10, which
So
is
there you go.
over the
So just be
limit.
careful.
And that's a
Oh
long
my.
time. A lot of times people are, think about 10 hours after you're that level.
Those NyQuil shooters, Edna. Watch out.
Oh my
that
goodness.
can really that can put you, like you said, 10 a.m.
No
next morning.
Patron, right?
She goes for the good stuff. Hey, I was just saying,
Patron and NyQuil do not go together.
Well, that's good information, everyone, especially since we're hitting this Labor Day weekend. So watch out.
And everybody, look at me. I know you guys drink, and it'll never happen to me, but all it takes is one time. I mean, I'll be honest, there are a few times when I've left the party drunk, and it's like, I don't know what it is lately this year, but just seeing a lot of people being stupid. And it's not just me, you got to watch out for everybody else. And I'm telling you right now, if a drunk driver hits me and I'm able to get out the car, I guarantee you something's going to happen before the cops show up. So, I mean, I'm just telling you now, and I'll go to jail for
Well, it's
manslaughter.
just a reaction.
It is,
I mean,
it's
it's an
just-
animalistic reaction, I think.
So I'll be calling you. I'll be like, I passed the
So
driving
cute.
test, everything, breathalyzer. Get me out, please. I went off on them. I'm sorry.
Well, everyone, now you know how Kendall is here to help you out with your
Where's
DUI.
Barbie at, Kendall? Where's Barbie? Did you leave her at home?
So let's talk a little bit about your passion, bicycling.
I do enjoy bicycling, that's true, yeah.
Yes.
With the short shorts and the helmet?
No, I don't ride like that, but I do some recreational, so longer distance cycling, and then commuting. I try to commute on days when I don't have court. So what I do myself is that if I have court, obviously I got to wear my suit and look nice. But if I don't have court, then I'll usually dress a little more casual, and then I'll ride my bike to work. I'm about 5 miles away, so it's a pretty easy commute. Even when it's extremely hot, even when it's 110, it's still only 80 degrees or so at 7 a.m. So if I can get out early and ride.
Only 80?
Yeah.
Only 80 at 7 a.m.
You try not to ride too hard in the morning and get into work, and so it's still comfortable. It's nice.
But how
really
are we
nice.
doing in Fresno? Fresno was a great
Fresno
bicycle.
is flat, so it's good for riding in that sense. I've ridden. I told you I grew up in San Francisco. I go back there a lot. And
God, San Francisco
riding there
hills.
is difficult because of the hills. The traffic is much. Things happen quicker up there with regards to traffic. Even the streets, as bad as sometimes our streets feel, the potholes and things are way worse than that up there in San Francisco. So
It's
you
way
gotta
safer
avoid-
though in San Francisco to walk
gotta
than it is here in
avoid.
Fresno for some reason.
I worry about riding in San Francisco because there's so much traffic and things are just kind of narrower and closer together. But in Fresno, the problem is there's less awareness of cyclists in terms of their needs and their safety. In San Francisco, there's been like the San Francisco I forget what the name is, the Bicycle Coalition that's up there, has been very active to the point where sometimes drivers don't like cyclists. But at least they're
Sometimes.
aware, and that's the main thing, because the main reason a cyclist is going to get hurt on their bike is because as long as they're not doing something stupid, and I know a lot of people complain about that, but I'll tell you, I see a lot more drivers doing stupid things than bike riders. The fact is that
That's
it's
something a bike rider would say.
yeah, of course. Well, hey, I see it every day. I could count. I would need more than two hands to count the number of violations I see every day from motorists.
Shouldn't you be putting
Just
your
driving
eyes on the
home.
road? Don't be.
Just driving home. Well, I can't. My eyes are on the road. That's why I see these violations. I see them
Right.
over
Siri,
and
look
over.
out for me.
But the fact is that cyclists have to be far more aware, just as a self-preservation. And a lot of times, you're going along and you got to watch out for drivers that are disobeying or doing something dangerous. And like I say, the main reason you're going to get hit or a close call or something like that is because they don't see you. There's some that are drivers out there, and I've had friends, it never happened to me that I'm aware of, but I've had friends that have gotten deliberately hit by
Really?
yes, drivers. That happens unfortunately, it's sick, but it's up in the foothills. It happens every once in a while because a lot of the people that live up there don't appreciate the fact that the cyclists are on so-called their roads.
Oh
And
my
I think that's
God.
really
Yeah, they get like
unfair.
that in the
That's
country. No, you think I'm
kinda
playing
mean.
like.
And generally speaking, a cyclist is going to get hit because the other person doesn't see them. It's not a deliberate action. It's something that's just an inattentiveness.
Okay, so
and,
I'm a
that can be caused by texting and driving. It can be caused by someone changing the radio station. It can
You
be
can get a
caused by
ticket on your
all
bike for
kinds of-
texting now on your phone. Did you know that? You could be on your actual bike, two little wheels, just bike, and you could be texting,
That
and
brings
they'll
up-
stop
that
you.
brings up a good point.
They will
because-
stop you. That's a
because
DUI. You can get a DUI.
You have, except there are some exceptions, but you have the same rights and the same responsibilities as a rider as you do as a driver. So if a driver is not allowed to hold the phone in their hand and sit there and text and drive, then a bike rider wouldn't be able to either. And I think it's pretty intuitive that it would be dangerous to do, since especially for bikes, things come up very quickly. If it's dogs, or dogs coming up and chasing you,
Right.
or just coming out in front of you, any little thing can affect your ability to stay upright on a bicycle.
There's
You don't
not
have
much
that problem
protection.
with a car.
Right. Well, now, do the laws pertain to those bicyclists the same? I mean, the application.
There are certain provisions that apply to cyclists only. For example, a cyclist is supposed to ride to the right if they're not moving with the flow of traffic. But there's a lot of exceptions to that too. If there's cars out there, one of the common ways of getting hit on a bicycle is because someone inadvertently opens a door right directly
Oh my
into your
God.
lane, and that happens to me over and over on. Let's see, I'll say it. It's on.
I think they're picking on
Bolton,
you
I
now.
think.
I think they know it's you, and they're just doing it. I think, poor
On
thing.
Wishawn coming south, that happens all the time. People open the door and they don't see you there, and there's a bike lane, but you're not safe in a bike lane. There's no physical barrier.
So are we in fact, is it the application misdemeanor, felony, all of those still for if a motorist hurts or injures a bicyclist?
Wait,
well,
what?
There's generally something that a motorist does that is that hurts a bicyclist unless they are under the influence, like what we were talking about.
Right.
I would say that generally it's going to be more of a closer to a misdemeanor than infraction. That's it's hard to say because that would be very fact specific, meaning you'd have to look at the circumstances exactly how they were. It's my belief that when vehicles do things like either hit somebody or try to scare somebody by aiming their vehicle at them, when a motorist does something like that, that is a felony. That's assault with a deadly weapon because a car has been clearly classified as a deadly weapon. And when
Right.
you
Yeah,
aim
but you
something at a
bikers sometimes, y'all just think you rule the road. I mean, just like motorists do too. We all
Well,
think they rule the
that's
road too, but
that's the attitude I was
look,
talking
he
about.
got
up
red.
there.
Look at him. He's like, God, the other day they were going right behind me. They knew I was riding.
Well,
I did my hand signal.
It's kind of the attitude that those ones that they sometimes have in the foothills. That look, and especially what happens is they see a cyclist doing something they don't get to do. Like they don't get to make a right turn and into a driveway as easily as the cyclists say, and they don't like that. So then they get upset because the cyclist is able to do it. There's all kinds of things that trigger motorists that cause them to do dangerous behavior to cyclists.
Okay, well, on those mountain roads, it's those, you narrow and you do those turns, it's quite hard to see some people, even in a car.
Well, that's true, and it
You
just
know?
shows you as a driver how careful you have to be. And a lot of times the people up there are driving. I don't want to focus on them, as
Right.
as horrible drivers. I'm just saying that that's where it's experienced a lot because there are so many recreational cyclists up there, and so you just have to be more attentive to things. You have to recognize that even though you're used to driving that way all the time and could do it with your eyes closed, keep your eyes open because there might be a bicyclist that you're not
Right,
expecting.
right. And you're
You
gonna,
guys love those foothills. They don't even have
Yes.
to pedal up there. It's all
Well,
downhill.
Well, you got to go up. You got to go up to go down.
that's right.
Hey, that's what she
That's
said.
right. Anyway, well, now we need to be sure that the people up in the mountain area, that they aren't directionally wanting to hit someone, because you're saying that's a felony. So that would
That's
be
a felony.
yeah, assault with a deadly weapon. So let's just be kind on the road.
Yes, people, be kind and rewind.
There you go.
Blast
Take a
from the
break.
past.
Blockbuster.
Take a break if you're feeling those thoughts. Just take a break and enjoy the scenery. It's a beautiful place to be. Our
Or
Central
just
California.
think about how hard that cyclist is working, because when they're riding in the foothills, a lot of times they're working very hard.
Don't let him fool you. It's all downhill.
Well, we want everyone to have a wonderful Labor Day weekend, and we really appreciate you coming and coming over to
Well,
visit
thank you
with
for
us,
having me.
Kendall.
I appreciate it.
We appreciate your time, and the audience, I hope they appreciate the fact this is great information, folks. Remember, just review it before you take off or before you decide to agree to a test. Right? All righty. So next week, thank you very much,
Yeah,
our
thank you.
panelists. And next week we're having Lance Canales, and he's going to give us a little guitar run before we get going. And we just, yes, isn't he?
Yeah, he's
yes,
great.
everyone's looking forward to that. That'll kick off. Well, we're a little advanced on our Heritage Month, Hispanic Heritage Month. So, but it'll all be great information. So we look forward to seeing you, and we want you to be safe this
Be
weekend.
safe. Have a happy Labor Day weekend, you guys. Thanks for joining us. Yo soy.
Thank you. See you next week. Thank you, Kendall.
Thank you.